Yes.
When we're all here, Jackie, call in, right?
Yeah, no, you just call the meeting.
Yes.
Because
In order at blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, you don't have to do a roll call
Yes.
because we're not
Okay.
hybrid anymore. Yep.
Good evening and welcome to the Monomoy Regional School Committee meeting for Thursday, June 8th, beginning at 6:33. I would like to call the meeting to order. Next on the agenda is public comment. Anyone here for public comment? Charles, welcome.
Charles Gruska, 6 T-Berry Ave, Harwich, member of the Monomoy Regional High School School Council, and here to speak on an item that we'll be discussing later on in your agenda, number 1 under reports and discussions. The High School School Council has had a major concern this year. A major area of focus and discussion has been the concerns over student vaping of nicotine, THC, and other products. It's a serious concern. Consumed a considerable amount of our discussion time, majority amount of our discussion time at the council meetings. We're thrilled to see the proposal brought forward by one of the classes, 8th grade civics classes, that you'll hear this evening. In addition to what's reported in the information you have, after the group reported to Principal Police reported and brought a draft of the proposal to the school council. School council very strongly supported the ideas, and the school council was then invited to meet with the class, which the majority of the council did meet with the 8th grade class, whose proposal you're hearing from tonight. We raised a few questions or concerns or food for thought or things to check out. I note from looking at the report you'll see tonight that they followed up on our input. I'm very happy to see that, and want you to know that the school council wholeheartedly endorses and supports the work of this 8th grade civics class under Mr. Dixon and the proposal that they bring forward to you tonight. Second note on your item 3, you're looking at a trip proposal to Greece. When I was in my early days of teaching, I had an opportunity in the Marine Reserves to be sent on a mission to Greece as part of reserve duty, and it was one of the highlights of my life. And I'm so excited for the opportunity to come to Monomoy and students perhaps to have that. I was able to come back from that trip with 100 slides that I took and do a school-wide assembly because it fits so well into the curriculum of the middle school in social studies. And I think the trip offers tremendous opportunities if it makes sense to the committee when you review it. So just a personal endorsement of studying in Greece, or an opportunity to be in Greece, the heart of foundation of democracy. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. All right, moving on to the approval of minutes for the May 25th, 2023 school committee meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? All right, moving on. Reports and discussion. The first item on our agenda is the MRHS Project Citizen Vape Substance Use Policy Proposal and Fritz demo. The presentation will begin with John Dixon and Officer Clark.
I'll get to that in just a second. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us. I'm Tommy Clark, the School Resource Officer at the high school here. I think you've already met my +1, Fritz, right? Anyone for bonus points know what kind of breed he is? What do you think?
German short hair terrier.
Pointer. Close, yeah. Appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight, basically to brag about my partner. I don't want to hijack the meeting, but before we kind of jump into the students' presentation, I think it would be a good idea to briefly touch on the program of the dog history. Students helped me put this video together. It's called Story of Fritz. So you're going to see some context of how we got here and answer any questions that the kids have in the presentation. So if you just want to hit. We need to remember where we were and what we were dealing with back in the fall of 2019. Marijuana had been legalized for a few years. The traditional police canines were no longer being trained in marijuana. The police dogs hadn't found anything in years during the school searches. There was an explosion in vaping use among teenagers and young adults, and we were seeing this in our school and across the entire country. It was becoming a real serious health crisis for our teens and our students. So we identified vaping and the use of marijuana as our biggest issue. We weren't really seeing the hard drugs like the opiates, the oxys, the perks, the heroin, the crack, the meth. We weren't seeing that in our schools. So we looked into getting a dog that could detect marijuana and the nicotine vapes. And with the support of school administration, the superintendent, also the chief of police, they recognized the value of this program. And with the incredible generosity from the community, we were able to make it happen. As far as the detection work goes, Fritz detects THC and also nicotine. So the THC in your traditional marijuana, the green leafy substance, also the THC liquid vapes, the dab pens, the edibles like the gummy bears, and as far as the nicotine goes, just the straight up like nicotine vape bars he alerts to. You know, a dog's nose has 300 million scent receptors. Humans only have about 5. So I always give the example to the kids when I'm doing demonstrations. You know, when you walk into a room and somebody has made an apple pie, as humans, we smell the apple pie. Say, oh, great, somebody made apple pie. A dog walks into that same room and they break down each single ingredient, like the apple, the sugar, the flour, the cinnamon, the salt, the nutmeg. They could even smell the person that was in there 6 hours earlier making the pie. Doctors say their noses are about 100,000 times more sensitive than the humans. During the searches over the years, Fritz has alerted on many backpacks, bags, pocketbooks, vehicles, which have resulted in the school administration finding marijuana, nicotine vapes, THC vapes, even some alcohol and weapons. So Fritz is what they call a passive alert dog. When he detects the nicotine or the marijuana, he will either sit or lay down to show me that he's found it. They're getting away from the aggressive alert dogs that bark, bite, scratch, chew. Obviously that's an issue with destruction of evidence, a safety issue in case they ever ingested fentanyl or other dangerous substances, and clearly a bomb dog, you don't want them biting and scratching and barking. Makes sense, right? So if you get caught with these vapes, the consequences are more school discipline, not so much criminal. You're also enrolled in a vaping education program, and I mean, these consequences, I look at them more as a life lesson than anything else. Fritz also acts as a daily visible deterrent to keep these kids from making bad decisions and choices in choosing to vape. He's obviously a very effective deterrent because the kids have resorted to stashing stuff in bathrooms, ceiling tiles, wall panels, toilet paper, and feminine product dispensers. They've gotten very creative. So comfort dogs, another benefit, you know, Monomoy was way ahead of the curve on these comfort dogs and the benefits of having them in school. Back in 2019, when we were putting this program together, there might have been 1 or 2 therapy dogs in the entire state. I was just at a recent SRO conference a few months back, and there were probably 75 or more comfort dogs there. I made a joke that there were probably more dogs than cops at that conference. The thing that makes the comfort dogs really great for schools, they're friendly and approachable. They interact with the students daily. They reduce stress and anxiety when reporting difficult situations. You know, it's easier for a kid to tell their story when they're looking at the dog and patting the dog. It helps comfort the victims when they're talking about difficult things. And you know, at the time, we had no idea COVID was going to hit. And with all the isolation challenges COVID would present, Fritz was really the only thing they were allowed to touch and hug, and having him was a real blessing. I mean, a huge help with the kids' social emotional well-being. He was really the only sense of normalcy in the entire building. pretty sure Fritz was the only thing not wearing a mask the majority of that 2021 school year. So after seeing the effects of this program and the positive impact Fritz has had on these kids, honestly, even if he never found one single vape or joint, I'd still be incredibly proud of this program and the benefits that Fritz provides these kids and the whole school community. And just to kind of add to Fritz's influence, you know, many kids come up to me and tell me that seeing Fritz is the best part of their day and that he just cheers them up. You know, for kids struggling in school, dealing with depression, anxiety, regular visits with Fritz have actually been built into students' IEPs, and these are usually requested by parents, the school nurse, guidance, and even for kids that just don't want to go to class, they know if they go to class, they get a little treat, a reward of getting a visit with Fritz, so it's kind of a motivator for them as well. You know, most of these kids have no idea what kind of dog Fritz is. He's a German short-haired pointer, but most of them think he's a black lab or a Dalmatian. It's funny, a student in the special ed program calls him the 102nd Dalmatian. And I gotta tell you, he had a recent birthday, and there were so many gifts and cards and treats and cookies and toys. The table in my office looked like a PetSmart display. And I don't even think the kids remember what my name is anymore. I've just kind of become that guy with Fritz, so we always kind of joke around about that. So I know that was kind of a lot to come at you, but after the student presentation, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. And then if we have time, I would love to do like a live demo so you guys could see the dog actually work in person. It's your call, just let me know at the end if we have time, but it literally takes 2 minutes. I could like put everything out here in front of you, okay? So just let me know on that.
Hi, I'm Marco Dean.
I'm Ethan Carey. I'm Devin Santiago.
I'm Paula De Oliveira.
This is our 8th grade civics project, Unleash the Fritz. It's about anti-vaping. Oh, did I still go?
Fritz is a German short-haired pointer. He can sniff out drugs like nicotine, weed, THC. There is a lot of substance use on Cape Cod starting as early as 5th grade. In this survey, most kids see vaping in our school every week, and about 1/4 of the kids see marijuana use. Most kids say that they can change the bathroom they use to avoid seeing vaping. Vaping and marijuana use hurts the developing teenage brain.
These are some alternative policies that we could have chosen. First one is restricting online policies. We could have passed a policy to reduce it online. Another one is same thing as before. Also is reducing it online so you could have more of an eye. Another thing is vape detectors that we could have used on our school, but it depends on the school's budget and mixed results from other schools that have had them before. These are some schools that these are some schools that have used them, but they've all had mixed results, such as Falmouth with their metal wand, and depends on the time and the school budget. So.
My group did class policy. So when Fritz comes in to sniff the room, we want the kids to stay inside of the room because they've learned that if they keep whatever they have on them, that Fritz might not smell it. So they keep it on them when they leave the classroom, and if they stay in the classroom, that Fritz would most likely smell it. We want to expand searches to the middle school because we learned that some kids are starting to vape and use marijuana in middle school. And we want to expand substance use education because kids at younger ages are starting to use substances.
We met with our school resources, Officer Clark and K-9 Officer Fritz. They demonstrated how he works. They support the policy. We met with the school administration to get their thoughts on our project. They supported and encouraged us and expanded our policy to include other schools. Today we are meeting with you to ask your supports for the new policy. Assuming the plans making it through the classrooms in the high school and middle school, we would search with Fritz. Middle school will have a wider curriculum on vaping and drugs, help keep vaping out of school, and help kids stop vaping before they start.
Thank you very much. All right. Say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Any questions, comments?
Go ahead. Marco, did you want to say something?
Ready to answer your question.
Oh, you're ready to answer questions. I actually don't have a question. I just wanted to compliment you guys. It was an excellent presentation, and I respect your kind of intuitiveness to take this on as peers. And I think you've done some excellent work, and excited to see where this goes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want? Oh, could we do the demo? Yeah, that's good.
Everybody okay?
Yeah, that would be
It
great.
won't take long. All right, great. Thank you.
Don't we need the dog?
Yeah, I'll come.
Out visiting people.
Unleash the Fritz. It's fans. It's fans. Please enjoy this commercial break. Do, 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 do. Oh, participate. Look, the chair. It's in your pocket, John.
All right, so remember, he's going to be passive alert. So if he finds it, he's going to lay down and probably look at me, nose punch too. You have so when I give you the thumbs up, if he
All
finds
right.
Yeah. How many things have something in them? Or we'll find out.
Can't give away the secret. Yes.
I'm curious. I'm sorry.
It's going to sit 6 times.
One of them. My mouth.
Guess I should have emptied my pockets.
I know. I've already been checked, so I'm good. I passed.
So he's starting to get excited. He knows when this special collar comes out and it's time to go to work. It's kind of like if you brought your 5-year-old golfing and every time you went golfing you grab the golf bag. After the 3rd or 4th time you'd be like, oh, the golf bag, I know what we're doing.
Okay.
So for him, he knows it's time to work. So he's getting super excited.
And it's just a leather collar?
Tests marijuana, THC, dabs, and also the nicotine.
Okay.
So we'll see what's in here. Hey.
So excited.
Ready to go.
Oh. Go, go, go. That's exactly what he's doing.
I'm gonna walk him around, let him smell everything.
That boss is suspicious. Look at that.
Oh, good boy.
That was a good
Now,
toss.
somebody open up that box and see what's in there. Anybody?
Oh, he's excited. Let's go.
I got my ball. I got my ball.
The grand reveal.
Show everybody what's in there.
Oh, it's not candy.
No, the Ziploc bag.
He's just looking to see what else is in there.
Oh, interesting, look at, wow.
Also the THC data.
Actually, okay. I don't think I want to touch.
Fred's handing it out.
Oh, yeah, okay. I think I'll keep my distance, thank you. Wow.
Oh, now I can smell it.
Yeah. Woo.
Yep, that's wafting.
Woo-hoo. Wow.
Thank you, Fritz.
Thank you, Fritz. Yeah.
So,
Wow.
hi, Mr. Dixon. Hi. How are you? Good, how are you? Good. You're proposing this policy?
Yes.
Okay.
So I guess, yeah, I wanted to just circle back to the policy that was in your packet. That's what these guys developed and are proposing, and it's really, some details are there, but it has the three prongs of expanding his use in the high school to include with students in the classroom, not just students out of the classroom the way it's currently done. And then to expand to the middle school, to have him go do searches on a regular basis at the middle school, like he does at the high school, and to then ask administration to develop anti-vaping, substance use education, and like the curriculum that's used at the high school, to develop or use a connected, related curriculum, integrated curriculum in the middle school and in the elementary school as well. I mean, what they certainly taught us is that it's a bigger problem. I have to admit, as an adult, I was under the misimpression, oh, we have Fritz, we're set. And then it became quickly clear to me the year as they talked about problems like there's a lot of vaping in the school. And so at first, of course, I was, well, how is that? And then they explained that, well, because of the policy, the kids leave the room, so they learn they don't leave their vapes in the bag, they take them with them, they keep them in their pockets. And then when Fritz does a search in the room's clean, but of course, they still have the vapes and they're still using the vapes. And then the part that they also taught us about how this is not new in high school, this is what's happening in the middle school. And so we can't, if we just focus on the high school, we're focusing on a population where there's a lot of kids who have developed habits, who it's very difficult for them now. If they aren't, they have the habit. So if we were to try and catch kids earlier, catch kids as it were, but not, as Officer Clark pointed out, not to try and get them in trouble with the law or anything, but to get them help, to get them education and expand our health education to lower grades. Our hope is that over time, that'll have a bigger impact, and that we'll really feel like we're leveraging the asset we have in Fritz.
Questions, comments? Ms. Seabrett-Law?
I just have a question. Is this the actual policy proposal, or are we taking a current policy on searching and taking this information and integrating it into, and then perhaps go back to you guys as well, if that's what you're looking for?
So I don't know the structure of the current policy, where that's adopted or been voted on or filed, wherever it is, but essentially this is amending that and expanding that.
So if we do have a current policy that is similar to this, this is what we want to intertwine?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, great, thank you.
Ms. Games?
So I have a question on the proposal. The health classes at the middle and elementary schools should include curriculum. So I guess a question I would have is, do we not currently have? We do. Okay. So this is just supporting that. Okay.
Do you guys want to talk about what was your experience with the middle school
I
health?
mean, when I was in middle school, since I recently just left,
Be loud.
when I was in middle school, we really usually touched upon mental health as like anxiety and basis, and we all know that mental health is way more than just anxiety. So I feel like our middle school health doesn't really touch upon substance abuse as much as it should, because in middle school I actually learned, like in high school, when I started, our first whole semester was about eating, substance abuse, mental health, and then the other half was all gym, PE. So I feel like the middle school kind of focuses more on like the puberty and like the growing up instead of more of like the mental health side of how kids like adapt to all of that in a sort of way. Yeah.
Anyone, you guys want to add to that? Do you feel like you guys talked about vaping much in middle school?
Elementary school, we didn't talk about it at all.
Elementary, did you talk about it some in middle school?
Oh, yeah.
Little in middle school, okay.
And were you able to talk to the administration at the middle school?
Come up with me.
No.
Okay.
We did not, that's true, we did not talk to the middle school administration yet.
Ms. Ebert-Long?
Can you give us a little bit of feedback on what the curriculum around vaping and substance abuse in the high school is? Do you feel that that's more informative and impactful? It just was the middle school you didn't get that information? Or should we be reinforcing it?
Yeah, I feel like it was more impactful, really. 'Cause, like, we learned about like hard drugs and how weed and how all those things affect your brain in an affordable way, especially at our young ages, and how like our brains are still developing. But like in the middle school, we didn't really touch upon that, so I feel like that should be like more in the middle school as such as learning just like about anxiety, more about like your brain and how it works and what things can destroy or alter your brain, which can hurt you in the future.
Great, thank you. Thank you. We need Dare back.
Ms. Rogers?
Just a comment. Thank you so much for educating us on what your experience has been. This is a really important topic, and feedback is so important. So, thank you.
Mr. Russell?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Terrific job, kids. I'm most impressed that most of the time we have guidelines and policies coming to us as a school committee from the state, or from adults, classroom teachers. Terrific to have kids involved, Mr. Dixon. Kind of scratching the surface of what I too have heard is a real challenging issue in school or in schools all over the Cape specifically. So a lot of maturity, and some of you have captured some really good words that point out what we've got to do about this. So keep it up.
So I wonder if our next step as a school committee is to bring it to our policy subcommittee and cross-check it with what the policy is that we do have in place and see how we can either add some of these elements or adjust what is in there right now. Is that an okay next step for us?
Yes.
All right, great.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Great job. Thank you.
Great job, guys. Okay, next on the agenda is a student trip proposal to Greece with EF Tours in April 2025. Oh, excuse me. First, we're going to do the CPAC presentation, the Special Education Parent Advisory Council, and Melissa McGuire is going to start that off for us.
Good evening, Melissa McGuire, Director of Student Services. I just want to applaud the students. What a great job, and what it does for us too is really help us to look at what we are doing. I can just tell you for public, we have curriculum that's called Bothan Life Skills. It's the approved anti-addiction curriculum that we're required, not that particular, but this is the curriculum we're using. It doesn't hit it goes from 3 to grade 12, and it certainly skips, and I think this is really helpful for us to take a closer look at that, and also what else do we need to do to supplement that. So, applaud oh, they're gone. So tonight I have the honor and privilege of introducing two of our board members, Emily Bradley and Stephanie Goley, as our CPAC chair folk. But I want to first thank our parents far and close for all their hard work with their children, with us. We, in the past 2 years, have been in our what's called tiered focus monitoring. It used to be called the CPR. It is the evaluation of special education programs, policies, procedures. We spent all last year in a self-assessment phase, and this year there was an on-site evaluation. They looked at our records, our policies. They interviewed our parents. They sent out a wide, a pretty decent survey asking them for their feedback. I'm happy to report that we have no findings in our special education evaluation. So thank you to our parents, because without them, obviously, we can't do the work we're doing. So now let me please introduce Emily and Stephanie to take it away.
Thank you. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Emily Bradley.
And I'm Stephanie Gold.
And so we're here to present to the school committee about what the CPAC has done for this past year. So just to remind you all, what the CPAC is essentially a group that supports special education students and families on their journey here at Monomoy, generally a parent and caregiver group, although it's open to anybody. And we provide resources for those families as well. Go ahead. Okay, thank you. This is the mission statement that we came up with, same as last year, but essentially, like I just said, supporting families along their journey with special education, attempting to connect families to each other, and strengthen using their input to strengthen the programs by relaying what we hear to administration and to you all.
So this past year, these were some things that we did. We are always a resource for parents, so people can contact us if they need to know where to go to find things or who to contact or talk to. We also coordinated the required trainings. We're required to have 4, Melissa? We're required to have 1 training a year, but we coordinate sometimes with other CPACs to offer different trainings. So we coordinate those. We provided information at curriculum night about what we do. We have a little brochure we made last year that we're hoping is being given to people at IEPs. I don't know if I got one at my IEP, but that's what we're hoping. And then we need to advise you at least once a year on what we're doing, so that we're doing that right now. And we mostly work with Melissa, and if anything comes up, we would obviously be talking with her regularly. We have a Facebook page, the Monomoy CPAC, so you can like it on Facebook if you want. And we post things there, not always regularly, but as things come up, and that's one of our goals, is to kind of keep that a little more active. Both Emily and I participated in the interviews for the tiered focus monitoring. And we also do a survey of Monomoy caregivers every other year. We didn't do that this year, but we did it last year, and we presented on that last year. We did not do that again this year, but hope to next year. We did do a back-to-school sort of kickoff meeting in October, and then we had our basic rights workshop in January. And after a number of meetings last year and things we tried, we don't get a lot of people attending our meetings. So we felt like 2 was good for the year. And maybe next year more people will want to get involved. And Emily's going to talk a little bit about what we want to do next year.
So we'll continue to do the required trainings through the Federation for Children with Special Needs. We will offer ours and hopefully coordinate with other CPACs to be able to offer more to families as well. We will do at least 1 annual gathering. We will try, like we did in October. It was just us in October, so we tried, and we will try again next year. We're thinking maybe we'll do like a winter thing. People might be more willing to come when there's less to do. We're toying with the idea of a morning meeting, things to think about. So we will do that. But one thought that we did have was attempting to put some feelers out and maybe have 1 person per school that's sort of the CPAC representative. What we were sort of coming to find as we were talking about what we would want the CPAC to look like. My children are elementary school level, Stephanie's children are high school level, and what we would be hoping for are really different things. You know, for me, it'd probably be something more along the lines of a play group, and for Stephanie, something more along the lines of like transitioning out of school, things like that. So if we had a representative for each school, maybe we could make it more appropriate, more focused on that age group. So hopefully we can get that to happen. We will do the survey next year, as Stephanie just touched on. We are going to be better about our social media posts, a couple times a month, we promise. And then, yeah, I do just want to touch base with all the team chairs and just double check and make sure that the brochure is being given out at IEP meetings so that people know how to contact us, and hopefully we can gain some momentum and membership and see how that goes. So, and then this is our information. We have a webpage on the Monomoy website. The email is cpac@monomoy.edu, and we have our Facebook page as well. Thank you.
Any questions?
Ms. Gaines?
Yeah, I have, first of all, thank you. This is very, very important work, so thank you for what you're doing. I had a question, because you were talking about getting people together, and I guess folks aren't coming. With curriculum nights, I'm just wondering, and I know with elementary, middle, high, if there's a way, since parents are already there, hopefully, if there's like a way to have a breakout session. I don't know how you work it into the schedule, but I was just kind of thinking about that. If the parents are already there, that maybe they could gather for, I don't know, 15, 20, 30 minutes or so, meet each other. I don't know if that's an option.
Yeah, that's definitely a good thing to think about. We did have our information available at the curriculum nights and open houses this past year, so we had some brochures and pamphlets available, but we didn't do anything like what you're talking about, so I think that's a nice idea to look deeper into.
Or maybe even just a couple of minutes, before the principal speaks or during their, and right now it's just Emily and I, so often we're like, well, I have to do this that night or this, so it's hard to, that's why we need some more people to help so we can kind of spread out the work.
Yeah.
But yes, great idea, thanks.
Thank you.
Ms. Seabright-Long?
When you guys, the page on supports for families, you talked about coordinating required trainings. What type of trainings are offered, or that you do? You have to do one a year, but...
It's usually related to, there's like the basic rights workshop is the usual one that we do. There's also one about the IEP, understanding the IEP.
There's one for transition planning.
Transition.
Assessment. Eligibility and assessments for special education, obviously.
Right, and the Federation for Children with Special Needs, they kind of offer people who can do those, and we have a membership. Part of what Melissa pays for us to have a membership with MassPAC, which is the whole state, and with that membership we get one free training a year, and then if we wanted more trainings we could pay for them through them, but we do our one free one for now.
So it's parent guardian focused?
Yeah.
Like how to analyze your assessment with your teacher, or what are your transitional options here?
Exactly.
Okay, so then you guys take it, you bring it back, and then hope you have a larger group to bring that information back to.
Well, no,
It's open to everyone.
It's open to anybody, to all the parents. Right, and sometimes when other CPACs are offering theirs, more people are doing things virtual now, so we can also offer we can open other CPACs meetings if they're willing to open them.
So, a number of different schools have that MassPAC membership, and you're able to get your one free one. So if we do understanding the IEP, and, DY does transition planning, and, so we hope to share it like that. That's what we try to do, and we've been able to do that in the past, so. That's how we're doing that for now.
Great, sounds like a great resource of just how to get it out more.
Yeah.
There were a few people at the IEP one, maybe 3 people. That's not a lot, but it's more than just me and Emily, so that's true.
Mr. Clark?
Are other districts having any more luck with attendance and stuff like that?
I feel like this is kind of a across-the-board thing. I used to be involved with another CPAC in another district, and it was the same. Yeah.
Ms. Rogers?
I just want to thank you guys for everything that you do, because I've seen in the meetings you help families when they were struggling with a certain issue, and so what you're doing is really important, and it must be really frustrating and difficult when you're mostly the only ones there, but it's so important. And I think your idea about having a student or a CPAC representative for each school is a really great idea, because like you said, different ages have different needs. And maybe that one representative will be able to rally their community, you know? But great work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Games.
I was also too, probably on the high school level, but I'm also wondering if there are students who are on IEPs that might, and particularly teachers that might be going on to college to study special education, if there's a way to pull our students into helping you reach, I don't know, because I know, and I had a special ed student a few years ago, and I know that there was a point in the IEP process where the student begins to advocate for themselves. So I don't know if there is an opportunity to get some of our high school students involved in what you're doing, whether it's a project, whether it's something that they just help you with. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know
Yeah, it's just
how
an
it would
idea.
work, but I like the idea.
Yeah.
Something to think
on that
about.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I know we've got high school students who are planning on going to teach special ed, so I'm just thinking how they can help partner.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be nice.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, now we are going to talk about the student trip proposal to Greece with EF Tours in April 2025 with Mr. Nickerson.
Good evening. My name is Jeremiah Nickerson. I'm a ceramics and sculpture teacher here at the high school. I come to represent the Visual Performing Arts Department with our travel proposal. Thank you for having me. It's that time of year that everything's crazy for all of us, so I appreciate fitting me into the agenda. So to start, I had the pleasure of attending this year's VPA trip to Japan, and to see the impact it had on the students really can't be described. And as a department, we've decided that we would like to go forward with this program at least biennially or potentially biennially, where we take more groups of students to different places throughout the world and experience more than just Cape Cod. For those of us that have been here a long time, getting away is an important part of life. So to give the children the opportunity is really important to me. So Greece, like I said, I teach ceramics. Ceramics is a huge part of Greek history, Greek culture, and the program that I've been exploring really ties into that, along with many other things. Whoop. Oh, I'm sitting the wrong way. Okay. I'm not going to read off the slides, but essentially what I said, we'll be exploring Greek architecture, history, and there's a multitude of different learning opportunities for the kids, including, which I'm excited about, we would be going to a olive farm where a member of the agricultural cooperative would actually meet with the students and talk to them about the importance of olive groves and olives in the history and current day use in the country, which I think is really cool. And there's also dance lessons and pottery classes and different things included as well. So I have a sample itinerary here. It doesn't include everything that I've worked out with the representative from the program, but it does show where the kids will be traveling to, for how long. It's a 9-day excursion, but they'd essentially fly into Athens, do a lot of the touristy stuff, see Corinth, Argolida, Delphi, et cetera. The Greek evening is an excursion that we've added on where they participate in a traditional Greek like dinner festival where there's dancers, the kids get to smash plates and all the fun stuff that is the Greek culture. One great option that is involved in this particular program I found is they offer the students and the faculty or the chaperones college credit opportunities for this. There's simple online courses that would be completed after the fact for undergraduate credits for the students, and then there's also graduate level credits available to teachers that would be at our own expense, but fairly inexpensive via Southern New Hampshire University. So the actual price is about $90 more than what's listed here because I did add on the Olive Grove tour, but essentially it's around $3,800. There is a opted-in and mandatory global travel protection program that would guarantee if anything were to happen, the travelers would get their money back. I know that's been an issue in the past. And because I'm proposing it so far in advance, there's a $200 early enrollment discount that I think really helps with the affordability of the program, as well as the fact that the kids have so much time to save up or fundraise. Through the department, we've got quite a bit of fundraising already in effect that we use for the Japan trip. There's an ad booklet, some student-made art fundraisers, et cetera. So we've already got a lot of this in place and are able to just tie right back in for this trip, just with an extra year to work. And the company EF Tour also offers $1,000 scholarships for students based on need and what have you. And they do have like a GoFundMe style crowdsource website that every traveler gets. Insurance and safety we talked about. They are very thorough with all the safety. They have boots on the ground in over 50 countries, including Greece. So there's actual Greek citizens that work for the company that we'd be working with that would be with us 24 hours throughout the course of the trip, as well as phone 24-hour support as well. And there's insurance for injury and what have you also. I did compare costs with other companies, including Explorica and World Strides. Similar prices. World Strides was a little less expensive, didn't have the same travel protection that EF Tours was. And I'm also familiar with EF because that's who we used for the Japan trip, and just based on that experience, their customer service and everything about it was top-notch. So I'm very comfortable going forward with them for this. So I kindly asked for permission to run the trip, and I did bring one student representative to speak. There's supposed to be two, but Cassandra Cruz was traveled with us to Japan and would like to do this as well. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Cassandra Cruz and I am an upcoming junior. This past April, I was fortunate enough to travel with EF Tours and the art department to Japan. This was truly a once-in-a-lifetime trip. During our stay in Japan, we visited temples, shrines, museums, gardens, and we even got to participate in a traditional Japanese tea ceremony. All of these activities opened not only my eyes, but the eyes of my peers and teachers to the elegance of art within a foreign country, or culture, sorry. The trip was full of historical sightings, and as a person who is heavily interested in history, this was truly the most exciting part. Alongside confirming my love for traveling, going to Japan urged me to be a better art student by incorporating artistic elements that I observed into my work. Greece would make for a spectacular trip as it is rooted with history, and with that history, breathtaking art. It would allow students to become inspired by what they see and motivate them to be more involved within the arts. Going to Greece would be an amazing opportunity for those who are passionate about art and history, as they would be able to experience and engage in the beauty of art that is formed in a culture and its history. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions, comments? Ms. Rogers?
Thank you. When do we have to vote on this by in order to get the discount?
I think the next meeting.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think 22nd is your next meeting, right? So ideally then, that way I can get the information out to the kids as soon as possible. And, the smaller month, my daughter's going to Italy next year, so that's double the monthly payment for that just because, but it's the same price, just because it's less time. So I'm really trying to get it out as soon as possible for the sake of the families.
Thank you.
Anything else? Ms. Gaines?
So I'm fascinated. First of all, this is my favorite kind of food, and you've won me just with these photos. But the college credit opportunities, to make sure I understand, so if they go on this trip, this is what?
So from what I understand,
Okay.
after the trip's over, it's the people that go on the trip, they are given the opportunity to complete some online coursework
okay.
that, it's
All right, I
some
got it.
paper
Yep.
writing.
I was just trying to understand this. Okay.
Is that at an additional cost?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
$250.
right,
yeah.
So for 3 credits, which,
And then educators can get, this is fascinating. I don't think I've seen this with other trips, or have I? Oh, was that the last one? I didn't pay attention. Okay, this is great. Thank you.
thank you.
I'd like to go.
Ms. Seabright Long?
How many students, and then student-to-teacher ratio?
So the EF program does 7 to 1. So for every 7 students that sign up, 1 chaperone gets to go. I'm going to keep it open, see how many can go. I did put out a minor interest poll to the sophomores, freshmen, because there'll be seniors, sophomores, freshmen, just to get an idea if kids would be interested. And I've gotten pretty strong response so far.
So you're saying like 30?
Ideally,
Do you
yeah.
have to commit to a
Ideally.
certain block of students?
No, so in the event, say 15 to 20 kids sign up, then the only thing that may change is we may get grouped up with another school for certain components of the trip. So for some of the tours that are for larger groups, we may just be with a different school from somewhere else, which would be a kind of cool opportunity, to be honest.
And the chaperones are paid for? Or they pay for?
Yeah, they're
everything
paid
else?
for. We pay our own travel insurance, but the company pays for the chaperones. And the company also provides separate background checks, even for teachers.
I have a weird question, but we always talk about, and maybe it's not a weird question, but we always talk about the affordability for students, and the Montreal trip's great because it's a very affordable trip. Italy, of course, my daughter's going on that one, and we're doubled up on payments right now. Greece is right in line with Italy, except you have it spread out nicely, which is great, in Costa Rica. But my question, I guess, falls on trying to get support for the students if there's a way to roll in, I don't know, some of the if the chaperones have to put in a little bit, and then some of that can be divided out amongst the students to give them a little bit more break on the trip to make it more affordable.
Yeah, that seems.
I don't know if that's even an option.
I don't either, but that seems fair.
Well, I just was curious, where are we, it's for the students and it's school approved. It would be a nice way to try and think about how we could, I certainly understand the chaperones are taking time to go and chaperone, and that's a huge responsibility, but just a thought. I don't know.
No, that's a nice idea.
But that's all I got.
I don't know, but that is a nice idea.
I can answer that question.
Okay.
I've done 17 trips with the and we used to do that. We used to take a chaperone and half the money would go to one student, half the money would go to another. So we have to work with you for taking what the chaperone's fee would be
Okay.
to do that. So then you can report really well to do that.
Thank you.
All right, so we could bring it back to our next meeting to vote?
If you could, that'd be great.
Okay.
Well, just one other
Ms.
question,
Gaines?
and maybe this has happened on another trip and I've forgotten, but I know there've been so, I just really want to appreciate the art piece of this. You teach ceramics, and I just, as an arts connoisseur, I really appreciate the pottery class, the Greek dance lessons. I just really applaud you.
Thank you, thank you.
Weaving that in.
When I first started looking for locations, I just typed in pottery
Oh, there you go. Okay.
and hoped for Greece, and it was
Yeah.
the first thing to come up. but,
Okay, good.
yeah.
Well, thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, next on our agenda is the Wellness Committee presentation with Melissa McGuire.
All right, normally I'm prepared and standing up before you.
It's okay.
All right, we're done. Okay, yes. Good evening, Melissa McGuire, Director of Student Services. I'm here tonight to present a report on the Wellness Committee and activities. So our recruitment and our membership, we have a very healthy membership, folks who contribute to the Wellness Committee. We're at about 40 on our committee. Not all 40 necessarily attend all of the meetings, but through communications, they certainly do contribute. And so what do we do? So the Wellness Committee is one of those committees that is required by regulation. So first is to develop a district wellness policy. When I say develop, that means obviously it goes to the policy subcommittee and then to you for a vote. We develop measurable goals as a result of some assessments I'll share with you. And then we cycle back and we review those assessments and the implementation of the policy. So this year was interesting. DESE has a whole division on child nutrition, and they last year had what was called a grant. It wasn't a financial grant, it was a support grant. So for coaching, for somebody from the DESE nutrition department to take a look at our wellness policy, our activities, and give us some feedback. So we had the coach come this past summer during our retreat and met with all the administrators to really review our policy and our activities. And it was really helpful because as we went into this cycle of assessment of our policy, which I'll get to, we went in with some information that the coach shared with us. I can tell you that the coach was wonderful, and we were also asked to present at the MASBO conference. They had a whole wellness section because of the work that we're doing with our policy. So there's two assessments that we use. One is Healthier Generation Thriving Schools Integrated Assessment, and that assessment specifically targets areas that we want to look at for goal development. So we did that assessment last year, and I'm going to show you the results. And the second assessment is the WellSat, and that is a tool that we use to actually assess our policy itself and make sure it has all the elements that are required. So this is the Healthier Generation. I know that looks small, but what we did, which was kind of cool last year, is we took the assessment and we were meeting virtually, and we broke out into breakout rooms, and everybody did the assessment in their breakout room. And what we ended up doing is I basically added all the scores up and looked at the top scoring areas. And what was interesting is that it all centered around social emotional health and staff well-being, school climate and culture, and school health services. So that was really telling, and especially coming out of our COVID, that people really wanted to focus on staff wellness and school climate and culture. So that really helped us to develop our goals. And so in your report, you'll have everybody's progress to date. And so for each of the schools, they reported out on the 3 goals that we had. The first one, strengthening social emotional health, and really looking at what are we providing our mental health professionals in terms of their own professional development and engagement. And so across the schools, which was really great, and thank you, we were able to hire a mental health coordinator this past year. And that's been instrumental in supporting, especially our clinical staff. They meet in a clinical PLC and really look at all of our tiered interventions and also what are some of the supports for one another. What's cool about that is I've attended a couple, and they start with a whole mindfulness activity. So they're really trying to model and develop those for themselves as much as we want to see that in the classrooms. So that was one of the ways. And then, as we looked at cultivating staff well-being and fostering positive school climate and culture, as you can see, I'm not going to read all of these, they're in your report, but I did certainly want to show you that the schools are working really hard to promote a positive culture and climate within their schools. And some of the activities that they're doing outside of school and offering to staff, which are great, as well as activities during school time. So as you can see, there's a whole host here of activities that are offered to staff. Supporting school health services. One of the nice things, we have a nurse leader, Cheryl Dufault, who supports all of our nurses, but we've taken advantage of Boston University Shield, and they offer a whole host of trainings in addition to the mandated trainings that our nurses need to take. For example, the Foundations of School Nursing, SBIRT is one of the assessments we do for substance use. We do that in the spring in conjunction with our counselors, medication administration and delegation, our school health screening, substance use and abuse. So our nurses are continually maintaining professional development to ensure that their practices are in line with what our needs are. And then we moved to the WellSat. That's what we did this year. So we did the Healthier Generation assessment last year. This year we did the WellSat because we're in it's a 3-year cycle where you have to review your policy and then resubmit it for school committee approval. So we did this assessment in the winter. And every member was provided the assessment, and then we looked at the scores, and what was really interesting is that the outcomes in this assessment were 3 areas: nutrition standards, competitive foods, and marketing. And those were the 3 areas that our coach also said you want to maybe take a look at those 3 areas. So that was really interesting. That it seems like we're on top of, understanding what we need and assessing what we need. And then finally, of course, as you all know, which is exciting, is that this year, again, our students have free meals. And, whoops, all right. And then recommendations, again, we will be revising the policy and presenting it to the policy subcommittee for the beginning of next year. That will include those 3 areas that were identified. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Any questions, comments?
Oh, no, go ahead.
Do we know if next year there'll be free meals yet?
I don't know. Where's Michael? I don't think we know that quite yet. Do we, Michael? Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good to know. Ms. Seabright-Long?
I just have one question, and you may have answered it and I just missed it, but do we ever survey the students?
We did that last year. Which was really interesting. We did that as part of looking at our promotional, like Garth sends out a newsletter, he was doing recipes, and then he did a survey of students to look at what were all of the foods that students, they were kind of ranked. And we were like, oh, it's going to be pizza. And it wasn't, actually. We were really surprised at some of the healthy choices that they were putting in their survey. So we did do that, and he also surveyed parents. So we didn't do that this year. Sometimes, looking at doing things every other year so that it doesn't become, kind of a nuisance to ask. But yes, we did.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just curious how we're getting obviously, like you said, it gets a little daunting to ask them the same question every year, but if we're changing things every year, or we're noticing patterns, and they're choosing the salad and the chicken roll-up versus the pizza, like they're not taking what we used to think they would take. So how do we then evaluate for the year going forward, how to better prepare for the things we're running out of that they're actually wanting? If we don't survey every year,
And
we don't keep track of that
Yep,
somehow.
we can certainly speak to Garth about doing that every year. I don't see that as a problem by any means. The one area that Garth struggles with at times is what's available, what is coming to him, and because everything is, following the federal nutrition guidelines, I think Michael's behind me, but, sometimes he struggles with getting everything that somebody might want all the time, and sometimes he can only get what he can get. So I think he has to balance, like, there are certain things that are that he orders that are under the guidelines. Everything has to be under the guidelines. But sometimes, because we even talked about farm to table, and not everything is always available for farm to table. So, so being mindful of, what he's able to purchase for the schools. So it might not always be the same things either. So that's just something Garth, has to work with. I don't know, Michael, you wanted to say something?
And is that because everything's pre-made, or?
It's not pre-made, it's what's available through his purchasing, through his bulk purchasing. Not everything is always available, so he has to kind of be mindful of what he's ordering. I don't know how often he orders.
So,
Yeah, go ahead.
he orders all the time. They're ordering all food all the time. So that definitely we play,
What is that again, a moving buffet? No.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's all over the place. But I will say, so they keep really, they have to, for DESE requirements, they keep really detailed production sheets, how many meals, all the ingredients they use, how many meals they produce, and how many meals they sell. So just to your point, if they're not selling meals, they stop making them. So that's happening throughout the year. The immediate feedback they get, apart from the surveys, is how many kids take the meals. So if students aren't taking the meals, we don't keep making them.
But if students aren't taking the meals because they don't like the selection, because what they wanted isn't there anymore, that's not getting tracked.
That's where the survey comes in.
Right,
So
that's where the survey comes in, and that's where keeping track of.
And also trying out other meals and seeing if they're successful in
Right.
talking to students.
Yeah.
And one of the things I've been working with Garth on is increasing the number of offerings which are made from scratch in the kitchens. So more meals, we're trying to get a certain percentage of meals will have been made both at breakfast and lunchtime from scratch. So using less ready, provided meals. I think that'll be, and I think everybody's keen to do that.
Yeah, I definitely think that we're in a place now where things are probably better, fresher than all the preservatives, especially if we're talking about the wellness policy. The more we can move away from that, the better.
Yeah.
Thank you both.
Any other
quick
questions?
Yep.
Ms. Gaines?
So, Melissa, with the Wellness Committee, and I did serve on it 1 year, so mental health, if I think it all falls, or is that, like this page, strengthening social emotional. So I guess mental, is there any assessment, anything that falls within this committee or this policy for mental health? I guess where I'm going with this is, and I'll just share with you, there is a bill being put out by Representative Priscilla Sousa out of Metro West that will require, if passed, will require a mental health exam for every student. But, so I'm curious, within this, what kind of assessment? Are we doing any kind of assessment?
So the assessment we used was the Healthier Generation, that components of that's how we got those goals for
Okay,
mental
all right.
wellness and climate and culture and health services. And when they really kind of strengthened that department at DESE, that's, one of the pieces that when you're thinking about wellness, it's not just about nutrition, right? Although the regulation is about child nutrition. But looking at wellness overall, and that's why we did incorporate those goals, is it's not just, kids are going to eat less sugar. It's about kind of a whole child. It's a whole approach to wellness for our staff, our students, our families. So that assessment identifies whether or not we're doing things to address, mental wellness, mental health
Okay.
as well.
Okay, okay, good. Because this is a bill I'm following, so I just was wondering in a lot of our schools if, how that's being done without the requirement.
So, I mean, the mental health in general is separate from wellness
Right,
in
okay.
terms of the assessments that we do and how we track and support students. I mean, that's outside of the wellness.
Okay, that's, yeah, I was just trying to
Yeah.
clarify that, okay.
Yeah, they're kind of mutually exclusive, but we don't want to not include mental wellness.
Right.
Right? So, I mean, if you think about, eating healthy, if you eat healthy, right, your mind is healthier, your body is healthier, and you're more able to learn. Like, we think about that with mental health. Kids who don't have, really strong social emotional learning skills, who are struggling, who have lagging skills, oftentimes aren't ready for learning, right? Because their mental wellness is not where it should be. So all of those things in combination should be supporting our students and our staff.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thanks, Melissa. All right. Moving on to our 2023-2024 subcommittee assignments. So I tried to honor everyone's choices the best that I could. So this is our first look at this. And if we're okay with it, then moving forward, when the subcommittees do meet again, you'll just kind of reorganize yourselves with deciding who is chair, and I believe we still have choice of format of the meeting.
With each individual committee, I don't know. Are we going back to, does anybody have I guess I would just probably ask the group. Does anybody feel that's necessary going into the next year?
Do we feel that moving forward, we can just have our subcommittee meetings in person? Or do we have thoughts on that?
Now that everything's dropped or done.
Yep.
We probably can just go back to normal.
I think that's a great idea, but how does everyone else feel about that?
I agree. I think FOB benefits all of us to be able to meet.
Okay. So then I guess the only decision once the first meeting of each subcommittee is just to decide who's the chair of that subcommittee. And I know policy just met, and did you schedule another meeting?
Yes, we're going to be meeting over the summer.
So that'll probably be the first subcommittee that meets.
Probably.
Any questions? Did I do something wrong? Did I add you to too many subcommittees?
No, I'm on 6. It's great.
I haven't counted mine.
Job well done.
I tried. All right, well, let me know if there's anything that needs to be changed. There is something I need to take myself off of warrant and payroll because I realized I can't sign payroll, so if anyone would like to volunteer to be the second signer, that would be great, and you can think about that. We don't usually often
We
need
don't
it.
really go past the first signer.
No, we don't. So, be a backup plan. But think about it. All right, moving on. So at our last meeting, we started having a discussion about updating the policy language to be more inclusive. Betty, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that or anybody from the current policy
What? You didn't miss anything?
You're good.
That's next.
Oh,
That's next.
You're good.
We just don't have anything in the packet for that. But thank you.
Jessica's eager for.
She's like, I am not prepared.
Anyway, or anyone that started talking about it last meeting, that when it wasn't really on our agenda, from the policy subcommittee, you guys had started to talk about having more inclusive language, correct?
And updating the policies, and the question that came out was, are we going to do them all at once, or are we going to do them little by little? And I think we should probably be pulling Melissa into this conversation as well. I know we're talking about looking at a lot of policies over the summer, so what you think?
Okay, Melissa McGuire, Director of Student Services. So the conversation really is about, and some of you might remember a few years ago, we had we had kind of a global vote to change, like policies didn't have Monomoy Regional School District on the top. They didn't have revised down below. There were certain things, and basically there was a vote to just go ahead and make that change. So this conversation was more about what we're noticing is language and policy that may need to be more inclusive, especially when we have identity. So when it has she, he as part of the language and the policy, to be more inclusive, to then include they, them. So, and that wouldn't necessarily mean a policy comes before the committee every single time because we're changing a pronoun or something, but that was the conversation. Can we just include that in our policies? So that was the discussion.
So I guess the choice is, as each policy comes up, you change that language, or we just blanket it and we go back into every policy and change it. Those are the two.
Yes, if you wait for it to come, there may be some policies that are never going to come up because they're statute, right? So it's not going to change. So you're not changing statute because you can't, but you can change the language you have in a policy, and if you wanted to do that, that would be just casing each policy and, having that changed.
Okay. Discussion? Ms.
Also,
Eberlein?
I have a question that I don't know if you can answer or not, but do you know where the state is, or I don't know, Tina, if you can say, do you know where the state or the government stands on this? Because are policies changing? I'm just not in the loop.
So what I see, especially when I'm in meetings that's certainly talking about diversity and equity, there are definitely some that are being inclusive and using that as language, and some maybe not. It's not required. It's a mindset, and it's how we as a district want to move forward with, any level of inclusivity. And so it's not a have to or not to. Is it something you choose to do as a committee? So I'm not suggesting or saying you have to do this. It was a discussion of, and amongst all of you, is do we want to be more inclusive with our language in our policies? Do we want to model for our community that we are inclusive and accepting?
Ms. Gray?
Thank you, Melissa. And I just want to add to that is that it does seem to be the trend that more and more companies and organizations are putting this language in there. I think you're going to see that coming down the pike.
Ms. Gaines?
And the timeliness of this, because I just came from a series of conversations with the LGBTQIA+ community and heard firsthand from a lot of students that consider themselves like non-binary, they identify that way, that they feel left out. And to hear that from the students was pretty powerful to me. So I will advocate that we include people, which means that we would change however we want to change this. Whether it's they, their, he, she. I'll just say and I'll just speak for myself, but for a long time, it was always he, if you all remember that, and she wasn't even in there. So now we have she, so I'd like to include they, there.
Ms. Rogers?
Echoing what Betty and Tina have said, I feel like, and Melissa, any opportunity where we could be more inclusive and make people feel welcome, I think we should take that opportunity. Whether that mean that we change the language to he, she, they, them, or just they instead of having a he or a she. That's where I stand. Thank you.
Christina?
Hi.
Hi.
I am a queer student, and I'd also like to echo from the position as the GSA leader on the high school level that the updating of language is not just a trend. It is a message of support for not only our students, it is for our staff and our caregivers. And I am from a queer perspective, someone that works with the district, I kind of assumed that this district was at a point where they would be happy to include this language, which I'm very glad that we are having this discussion, and it's kind of like we are definitely doing it. Let's just figure out how. I also would like to say that he, she, and they, if we were to include all three of those pronouns, that would be the most generally accepting and diverse and covering all identities, just to make sure that we have markers that we support all students, faculty, and caregivers.
Anyone else? Ms. Finnegan?
Looking at the average age of the people at this table, I think that your voice is very important to this conversation.
Yes.
And I would agree that across policies, it should be changed.
So we do have a potential vote for updating the policy language to be more inclusive. I think we probably should decide what that looks like, if we're going to change it to just they, or to include he, she, they, them. So I guess I'm looking for a motion, if there's one out there, or if there's more discussion.
Are we voting to do the full? Are we voting to do the shortened?
I guess that's our question too. Do we want to do it as a blanket and just change all of them, or do we want to do it policy by policy? So I guess.
I'll give it a try.
Okay.
I move that we do a blanket update. Is that the right? Blanket update on the policy language to be more inclusive, which would, instead of he, she, be he, she, they, them.
Second?
Ms. Finnegan? Oh, second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Abstain? Okay. All right.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Do we, in this conversation, do we need to discuss how it's done, or are we just trusting that the administration will figure it out, or, I mean, how are we doing? I think it's a simple thing, but I'm not sure.
Find and replace?
Please, for find and replace. Thank you. That's, all right, good. Thank you.
That's my summer.
Thank you for clarifying.
Great.
They had to do it on the select board, so.
Daunting.
Yes. Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Next, we have our first reading of policy BBA and. No? Oh, right.
Getting there.
You're doing great. Thanks.
On the list.
There is. We are introducing the new assistant principals and the 5 to 12 curriculum directors.
So in your packet, there's something that Joy has put together with the 4 new administrators that we have brought on board. So we have a vacancy that in the assistant principal role, both high school and middle school that we filled, and the 2 curriculum roles. And I think for me, just looking at who we've hired and who we're bringing on board, it's 4 individuals that I think are coming with a lot of energy and enthusiasm. It'll be their first administrative roles, and I think it's something that for this district gives us a lot of long-term stability and a strong bench, to use the sports metaphor. But we have Sean Dutch, who will be coming to us from more of a high school background at Brockton, working with a lot of students that had certain types of special needs, and is really excited to be working with our middle school population, expanding his repertoire. But wonderful, I think the way he presents himself, I can just see him really connecting well with students and our families. We have Anne Marie Rita, who is currently the math department head at Dennis Yarmouth Regional High School. She has been interested in heading into administration and was excited when Jen Police reached out to her and said, hey, we've got a position here. We'd love to have you bring your energy. Jen worked with Anne Marie in the past and considers Anne Marie one of the best educators she's ever known, and is really excited to get Anne Marie here. I had a lovely conversation with her. I'm really glad to have her join the administrative team at the high school. For the 2 curriculum roles, one of the people is a familiar face to the district. So Anne Marie Varela has been with us for the past 2 years at Chatham Elementary School as a math coach and specialist, and she'll be coming into a 5 through 12 role. And I shared with people when Anne Marie applied, the first thing I did was I was yelling down the hallway. It's like, could somebody bring me Anne Marie's personnel file? And I'm looking at the math that she's had eclipses, I think, what many of our math teachers at the high school have had. So she's taught at the high school level, middle school level, and at the elementary level over the arc of her career, but is really specialized on that lower end of the grade level, but has this wonderful personality and a skill set to go and transfer that, the same things that she has been doing at the lower grade levels up to the high school. She's a known quantity and she was very involved with Charles and Cindy and others on the Portrait of the Graduate process this year, and works really well with the staff at Chatham Elementary School. And I look forward to her working with the middle and high school staff. And then we have Lindsay Parker, who has taught for a number of years at a charter school in New Bedford, and has been the ELA curriculum coordinator for that school. And in this past year, she has served as an assistant principal, but she was someone who walked in the room, and I was telling people that I think the last time I saw some younger administrator with that much energy was when I first met Adam O'Shea 10 years ago. So I really look forward to Lindsay coming here, working with our staff, and I know that Mark's excited to work with both Lindsay and Anne Marie and getting these curriculum positions up and functioning in the district.
Great. Any questions? Discussion? All right. Now we're going to move on to the first reading of policy BBA/BBBB, school committee member qualification and oath of office. Betty?
I was going to say, would you like me to take this? Since it's actually our second reading, this was at the last meeting. And the question, number 3, was the question that we needed to go back to the policy subcommittee meeting. The question was, when someone takes the Massachusetts Ethics Commission's online training program and they're in multiple committees, do they need to take it for each committee every 2 years, or is it just one and done? And the answer is one and done, so we don't really need to change the language in this. And unless I've missed anything, I think that was the big question mark last time. So this is ready for a vote. Unless anyone has any questions.
All right. Do I have a motion? Ms. Everett-Long?
I have a question. One of the questions, and I'm still reading it, but we had was, do we actually need to give it to Leah, or can she access it online?
If you go through
Yep.
Yeah, she can access it online.
Okay, upon completion of the training, members shall provide notice of such completion to be retained.
So if they don't do it through the Monomoy School Committee link and they do it somewhere else, but it's the same training, they can give Leah a copy.
Because it says upon completion of the online training program. Members shall provide notice of such completion.
Yes, so if they do it for a different committee and they don't sign in through ours, Leah doesn't have access to it, so they would have to give that to her. Does that not make sense?
Oh, I think
Melissa has.
Yeah, Melissa has a copy.
Melissa's over there.
But I do have it, just for clarification.
Good.
So Leah spoke with the town clerk, and so they together, should there be somebody that takes it through us, they'll communicate, Leah will communicate to the clerk, and should there be it taken through, another municipal organization, she will communicate to Leah, just for clarification, if that helps. Thank you.
So do we need to change the language?
Madam Chair, actually,
Ms.
well,
Games?
okay, so let me just, for me, when I say, like, members shall provide notice to me is notifying Leah. I took the test, or whatever it was, and then she knows to go and look and verify it, and there we go. So that's how I'm reading notice, that it doesn't, just to notify Leah that you've taken it, basically is how I read it.
But do we need to put something in that, like, if you took it somewhere out, like, if you took it
Whatever
another-
Betty just said is not in here.
right, if you, Mr. Clark?
So I just did this?
Yeah.
And I had to show her my certificate.
Oh, you had to show Leah your
I did.
certificate?
Yep, I
Okay.
just sent it to her.
Did she request it, or did you just do that because you're a good guy?
No, but she told me to do it.
Right, because I don't think we were clear yet. but-
Right, at that point, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know if.
I agree
if-
with
if-
Ryan, I just took it also.
Oh, you
Yeah,
did
I don't know
too?
if you
Actually,
get
my
an
wife took
update.
it. She forwarded to Leah, seriously, I feel so.
So I feel like it should
The,
say.
the certificate photographed and sent it off. Leah was totally
Yeah.
thrilled.
Yeah, I mean, Madam Chair,
Yeah.
I don't think this is bad. I mean, I'm a believer that document, so I don't think it's a bad thing, but I just think notifying, I don't know that we need to change anything, but that's just me.
I guess, but it does, like Jackie said, it doesn't say anywhere what Betty said, where, if you take it with another committee, you don't have to take it again.
So what I wonder is, do we change the language, if you're taking it through a committee other than the school committee, you must provide the online?
Something like that. Ms. Seabrett Long?
I would read it, school committee members upon appointment or election shall, within 30 days of taking office and every 2 years thereafter, complete the Massachusetts Ethics Commission's online training program. Upon completion of the online training program, members shall notify the committee clerk that certification is available online, or certificate is available online. Then I would, available online, and then such completion will be retained for 6 years by municipal or district clerk. Then I would add Betty's, if the Massachusetts Ethics Commission online training, or if a committee member has taken the blah, blah, blah online training, then she said it really well, so I'm not going to chop it up.
We'll go back and watch the recording.
I know.
Do you remember what you said?
I kind of do.
It's in there, I can tell.
So we'll bring that back to the policy? Do we have to bring that back to policy?
Yes.
Do we have to? Oh,
Well,
I'm
I
not on it
don't know.
anymore,
I mean,
so
that's
there
a
you
lot of
go.
change. It's a big
Yeah.
change.
Yeah. And just one other comment, Madam Chair. My understanding of the state, they're trying to go green, so they're trying to cut down the paperwork, and hopefully all of this will be, so we no longer, at some point, you just go on, you look for somebody's name to see that they've completed it. But that's the intention of the state. They're attempting to go green.
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay, so we are going to bring that back for a second reading at our next meeting. Again. So then, this, although it says first reading, this is actually a second reading, correct?
It is.
Second reading of ACA non-discrimination on the basis of sex. So that is for a second reading with a potential vote.
This one's so easy, so we cannot change the title, but we can add to it. So if you look on the back of the policy, in red, we added non-discrimination on the basis of sex, in parentheses, sexual orientation and gender identity. And that was the only requested change for that policy.
Are we good with that?
Yep.
Any questions? So I'm looking for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to, what am I saying?
Approve.
Thank you. To approve ACA non-discrimination on the basis of sex, parentheses, sexual orientation, and gender identity.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Abstain.
All right. Moving on to subcommittee representatives and liaison reports. And I was going to do this, but since Ms. Gaines is here, I'm going to pass the mic.
So in your packet, there is what I think is a wonderful opportunity for some of our newer school committee members, and maybe even some of the rest of us that might need a refresh. But on Friday, June 16th, there is an online training about goal setting, because we're going to be doing that this summer. So for the newer members, grab your lunch. It's online, it's virtual, and it just talks about why we set goals and how we do it. So it'll give you a little bit of education before you actually come into our meeting and we set goals. So I'd highly recommend this if you can work it into your lunch schedule.
Do we know about how long it is?
It's an hour.
An hour.
Yeah, from noon to 1.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I was looking for that, and I was looking for a number, though, not
Yeah, and they do these learning lunch series, so they have different topics, but they're always from 12 to 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions, discussion? Okay. Moving right along to the superintendent's report.
All right, I have a few recognitions. I'll start with, we'd like to thank the Garden Club of Harwich for their donation in the amount of $200 for the Harwich Elementary School tree planting at the Harwich Community Playground. We'd like to thank Project Lead the Way for their grant in the amount of $10,350 for the high school Project Lead the Way program implementation. Then we'd like to congratulate middle school science teacher / rock star Nancy Gifford for being named the Massachusetts STEM Teacher of the Year. Nancy was announced by Robert Kraft as the recipient of the award at a ceremony that they were having at the Patriots Foundation. The middle school will receive $5,000 towards STEM education. As part of this, Nancy will be serving on Governor Healy's STEM Advisory Council, and I guess Bob Kraft said that, congratulations to Nancy. Classroom teachers truly made a role and it made a difference in promoting science, technology, engineering, and math for kids in the Commonwealth. She's doing an outstanding job she's doing outstanding work to inspire our next generation STEM professionals. Nancy, the work you do makes an impact, and we are very proud to support you. Second to last, I have just want to say we saw a presentation that was one of John Dixon's Project Citizen things for the vaping presentation at the beginning of the school committee meeting. I want to acknowledge that this past week, the Department of Ed had a civic showcase at Clark University, and 4 students from Andy Matheson's civics class were picked as major prize winners. The students' project was the opioid epidemic on Cape Cod. It was their problem. They developed class policy, just like the presentation we saw that would sort of advocate for having recovery high schools on Cape Cod, or recovery high school on Cape Cod. They competed against students from 50 other middle schools. The students had to endure 4 15-minute rounds of presenting their projects, answering questions from judges, and at the end of the competition, DESE gave out 4 awards. Our students received the award for the project that they thought would have the greatest impact. So congratulations to that group, that Project Citizens group. And then last but not least, I just want to just acknowledge something really special that Sherry Armstrong was involved in putting together, or helping put together this morning. So this morning there was a press conference at the Housing Assistance Corporation in Hyannis, just sort of acknowledging the challenges that housing is here on the Cape, and is becoming increasingly more challenging. And there was a wonderful display that they have, and I think it's still up if you were to drive by. The building's right across from the Parti Freeze miniature golf, and ice cream stand, one of my favorite ice cream stands on the Cape, by the way. I took Sherry out for ice cream there after she and I both presented. But there's a presentation, and it's made to look like sort of the side of a house, and there's a big sign in the middle that says, "Home is where the heart is." And you'll see, if you were to get out of your car or park and walk up there are all these drawings from children about what home means. Many of those drawings are from our children in the district, and it was nice as a superintendent to take some time this morning and to go look at the words that that our children are saying what homes mean, and particularly when we talk about all the social emotional challenges that kids have, how important that home is to establish the feeling of safety, joy, and happiness for a child. So if that's not in place, how are we here in the school district supposed to do our jobs? So both Sherry and I spoke. I'll share some of my words. I want to emphasize that this is not for discussion. It's the superintendent's report.
Is it listed?
So, and this is the superintendent's editorial in his report. But it was kind of for me. I shared with Terry. When I sold the house in Harwich, I've been looking for the next project, and I finally just 3 days ago had an offer accepted on the next project. So I am a little less than a month away from home ownership again. And so this thing this morning had me, as I was thinking about my words to share at it, reflecting back on just my life experience. And part of what I said is that in 1997, as a third-year teacher at the time in Lexington Public Schools, I realized what I considered to be one of the biggest parts of the American dream, and it was when I bought my first house. So as a third-year teacher, I was able to go buy my first house. And that home allowed me to build equity that has benefited ultimately my family that came later, helped finance kids' college education, became a source of down payments for 5 subsequent houses that have come along. And as school superintendent, my concern is that the American dream, or at least that part of home ownership, is becoming increasingly out of reach for both our families that we serve in this district and for my staff. In 1997, my first home cost about 4 to 5 times my salary at the time as a third-year teacher. As of this morning, on Zillow, the least expensive single-family home in Harwich is 10 times what a fourth-year teacher in Monomoy makes. The least expensive single-family home currently on Zillow in Hyannis is over 7 times a fourth-year teacher's salary here in Monomoy. And I worry, I keep talking about my concern on how can we retain staff? How can we get staff to say yes to jobs when, it's, how do you go say to a young staff member, yeah, come here to Monomoy. This is great. Everybody wants to be on the Cape. I get it. But then they try to figure out how do you make it live. So it is a big issue that I think we all have to think about. And I know it's not just the teachers. I know it's folks that work for DPWs, folks that work for the fire department, folks that work for the police department. It's folks that just work in regular jobs around here. But it is a concern, and both Sherry and I were sharing our perspectives this morning as part of this press conference. That's it.
All right. We're not discussing that part.
No,
but do
we can just
have
say
questions?
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Stop
looking at us.
We do have one more action item to vote on the student trip to Costa Rica with the EF Tours for February 2024. Do I have a motion?
I'll do it. I'd like to make a motion to approve the student trip to Costa Rica with EF Tours in February of 2024.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Seabright Long?
I just have a question. Did we have a follow-up reviewing the, we got a thumbs up. Okay, great. He knows what I'm talking about.
And so Dustin Burns did send to me, just that travel thing. It's more solid than what World Strides.
You're happy with it?
And
We're
the
good.
tour today that you saw is also with EF with the same policies.
Thank you.
So we'll take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay, great. And I just would like to say, before the last two things, the graduation on Saturday, was the best Plan B graduation that I think I've seen or been a part of or heard about. It was seamless, and within hours, you shifted from an outside giant ceremony to an inside, smaller, more intimate. There may have been a little bit of a technical difficulty, but that was fixed shortly after it began, and I just give kudos to the administration, all the staff, the kids even, they walked the right way, and nobody got in anyone's way. It was a great day for those kids. It was really special, so thank you to all the administration for working that out. So we have had the presentations of warrants, and I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, and we will adjourn at 8:16.
Right.